So welcome to Brookline's celebration of Indigenous Peoples Day. The first thing I want to acknowledge is that our town employs a team of professionals in an office devoted to diversity, equity, inclusion, and community relations. That's kind of a big deal right now. The Indigenous Peoples Celebration Committee is just one of the groups that office supports. For me, it's part of what makes this town special. So thanks, Lloyd and Ahmad, both here today, and the person who gives meaning to so much of this committee's work, Caitlin Starr. Caitlin is attending a family wedding today. We miss you, Caitlin. So I'm Paul Mclean. My wife, Jody Leader, and I are both members of the Indigenous Peoples Celebration Committee, and we're also creators of the Footprints Walking Tour of Indigenous History in Brookline. The tour begins and ends on Walnut Street, a roadway paved over an ancient Indigenous pathway that led to a tribal village in the neighborhood of the Roland Hayes School. We'd love to tell you about Footprints, so do come by our table. Town meeting in Brookline begins with a voluntary pledge of allegiance, the national anthem, and then a verbal admission that Brookline came into being as a town after Europeans took this land by force from people who lived here for centuries. Adding a land acknowledgement 5 years ago was neither easy nor painless. 400 years after this land was taken, it's still challenging to talk about. Brookline says, in part, let us take a moment to acknowledge the history of the land we call Brookline. This is the unceded land of the Massachusetts people, whose traditions, language, and stewardship continue today through the Massachusetts tribe at Ponkapog. Specifically at Ponkapog, not of. The distinction is important to today's tribe because Ponkapog is a place the Massachusetts were removed to by force by colonist militia. So then is now the Massachusetts are not by choice of Ponkapog. The Brookline acknowledgement continues, today we are living on land that was taken by force. By 1641, the colonists in Brookline had allocated to themselves almost all of the land that had been inhabited by Indigenous people, end quote. By 1717, when Brookline became a town, Indigenous people were not allowed to own land here. Owning land was a colonist idea anyway. The Massachusetts and neighboring tribes, the Wampanoag, the Nipmuc, the Pawtucket, among others, believed they belonged to the land, not the other way around. Town meeting also committed Brookline to address the enduring inequities from our history of colonialism and racism. Quote, although we as individuals were not perpetrators of those atrocities, we benefit from these systems. Thus, we dedicate ourselves to addressing them today, end quote. So welcome to Brookline's Indigenous Peoples Day celebration. And thanks to Lloyd Gelano, Ahmad Hamza, Caitlin Starr, and the Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Community Relations for providing such support to the work of the Indigenous Peoples Celebration Committee. Thanks to Surge Boston and all the groups that are joined us here today. Surge stands for Showing Up for Racial Justice, and Surge Boston team is directly involved in relationship building and the repair work through volunteering at the Nipmuc-owned Baguaso Farm in Millis. This is real land back and repair in our backyard. Stop by the Surge Boston table and learn more. We'll be hearing soon from Kailey Bennett, the new chair of our Indigenous Peoples Celebration Committee and a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. I'm looking forward to hearing her explain the Cherokee concept of a Gadugi, which seems to intersect with the mutual aid movement. But first, I'd like to invite Brookline's Crystal and Aspen Johnson up to lead a heart chant.
Greetings, everyone. So my name is Crystal, and I just want to start to say thank you so much. Thank you to the committee. I'm so glad to be here with Town of Brookline, the Raptors Group, the Environmental Other Stewardship, Racial Equity, the small businesses selling essential oils and jewelry, and all being connected here, and we all have come here. I'm really glad to see, I think, our state rep here earlier value all the work that he does. There you go, exactly. And so as we're at such a challenging time, offer out a heart chant and recognizing our bloodline through my mother's side, and have a heart chant recognized in at least one Tusalgi Cherokee, where there's a larger story, but through recognizing that we're all energy and that there are sacred spots within our bodies that align to all that is and how we connect. And at this time where we need to have emotional intelligence, we need to have forgiveness with ourselves and better communication with others, and to be more of a bridge, offer out a heart chant so that hopefully then as my point of light, it comes out, touches yours, and that it continues on that way. So it's also a sound vibration more than just a literal translation of words, but still give it out with heart across all traditions, all times, from our ancestors to our future. So here we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sio, Dagwa Da'a Hia, Kailey. Hello, my name is Kailey, and I am the chair of the Brookline Indigenous Peoples Celebration Committee and an enrolled citizen of the Cherokee Nation, which has its capital in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. I'm originally from Tulsa and moved to Brookline after graduating college. This speech is dedicated to my great-grandmother, who taught me to be a fearless and strong Cherokee woman. Thank you so much for attending Brookline's Indigenous Peoples Day celebration, especially this year during a nor'easter. I want to begin again by thanking our committee members, Paul, Shayna, Catherine, Jody, and David. This event represents an enormous team effort, and I'm so excited to celebrate today and with our committee and you all. Additionally, our committee work would not be possible without the tireless support from Caitlin Starr and the rest of Brookline's Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Community Relations. So today, we're going to be exploring a Cherokee concept, the idea of Gadugi. So let's first define Gadugi. Gadugi is a uniquely Cherokee word that defines as community working together for the common good. This concept is so integral to Cherokee life that the word for state is closely tied to Gadugi. The word for state is Skadugi. So therefore, you cannot have a political body or a community without working together for the betterment of all. Potawatomi author and scholar Robin Wall Kimmerer also explores this community-centric approach in her new book, The Service Berry: Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World. Kimmerer states, in a gift economy, wealth is understood as having enough to share, and the practice for dealing with abundance is to give it away. A gift economy nurtures the community bonds that enhance mutual well-being. The economic unit is we rather than I, as all flourishing is mutual. So let's examine a few historical examples of Gadugi in practice. Sequoyah is one of the most influential figures in Cherokee history. In the early 19th century, Sequoyah created a syllabary, a set of written symbols to represent each syllable in the spoken Cherokee language. This made it possible for the Cherokee to achieve mass literacy in a short period of time. Sequoyah first taught his young daughter and then more family members. Because it was tailored to the sounds unique to the Cherokee language, Sequoyah's syllabary was not difficult for native Cherokee speakers to learn. In just a few years, the majority of the Cherokee tribe was literate, far more literate than the white settlers encroaching on their land. Cherokee became one of the earliest Indigenous American languages to have a written language. Therefore, Sequoyah is an excellent example of Gadugi. This single exemplary act, which required an enormous amount of labor and perseverance, had reverberations in the decades to follow as the tribe advocated for itself against removal. In 1828, the first Native American newspaper was created, the Cherokee Phoenix. The first issue of the newspaper was printed on February 21st, 1828, in New Echota, Georgia, which is where the Cherokee original land was. And then it was edited by Elias Boudinot. It was printed in English and Cherokee using the Cherokee syllabary created by Sequoyah. The press typeset was forged here in Boston thanks to the missionary Samuel Worcester. In the 1830s, Boudinot and Principal Chief John Ross used the Cherokee Phoenix to editorialize against the Indian Removal Act of 1830 and the growing encroachment and harassment of settlers in Georgia. Amidst intertribal disagreements about removal, the Phoenix was lost and the press was destroyed. The newspaper has survived, though, these moments of division and still operates today. This is another example of Gadugi, but also is an example of how internal division can destroy tools for the common good. For a more contemporary example, we should look at the pandemic response of the Cherokee Nation in 2020 and 2021. The first COVID fatality in Oklahoma in March 2020 was a Cherokee Nation citizen. The concept of Gadugi was brought to the forefront of their pandemic response and provided an opportunity for each Cherokee citizen to rally around the necessary public health measures and policies to curtail the pandemic. The COVID response was centered around protecting and preserving Cherokee elders, culture, and language. Native people know the cost of pandemics and disease and the destruction that causes to our communities. During the vaccine response, Native American tribes were given priority access to COVID vaccines. The Cherokee Nation swiftly vaccinated its community, and then after that rollout was complete, they offered the COVID-19 vaccine to anyone in any state, even those who were not Native American. The Cherokee sharing their vaccines with non-Native neighbors also exemplifies these principles. The wider tribal community is improved when its community is safe and well. Now, you might be asking, how does this relate to Brookline? I have spent a lot of time thinking about Gadugi as it relates to my own community here. Specifically, how to better communicate and recognize, support one another as neighbors, particularly in this divisive time for our country. How can we put our community first and our neighbors first in day-to-day practice? Here are a few examples that you might already incorporate in your life, but if not, can look to do in the future. So there is, you can donate funds to the Brookline Community Fridge, also known as Jennifer Cool Fridge, which has a table here today, so make sure to check them out. This is an easy example of mutual aid in action, and it's important to have barrier-free access to food and essentials. The Cool Fridge, as I said, is with us today. The Brookline Food Pantry is another example of community aid. For each of these organizations, we can offer our time, our resources, and to ensure that the continuation of these services to the broader community. This is especially critical with the enormous losses to government funding for essential community support resources. Another example of Gadugi in Brookline is as simple as cleaning up trash on your street or in a local park. How we support parks, green spaces, and the environment is important to how those resources evolve and continue for future generations. Here at the Ridley School, just a week or so ago, a new mini forest was planted with the help of Brookline PDW and Brookline Mothers Out Front, also here today. These mini forests help reduce heat islands seen throughout the greater Boston area. We can also volunteer at the Minot Rose Garden, yet another way to provide measurable benefits to the Brookline community and our natural environment. At Clear Flower Bread, you can pay it forward and donate a coffee or any kind of beverage to someone else that could use the support. They have a pay it forward wall if you haven't seen it. The Senior Center and Brookline High School work collaboratively to support local seniors with the SHOP program. Clothes and small household items can be donated to Thrifty Threads, a local nonprofit thrift store that operates out of United Parish Church. Thrifty Threads not only supports the community with affordable clothes and housewares, but also supports our environment by giving these items a second life and keeping them out of landfills. These are just a sampling of the straightforward and tangible ways that we can directly support our community. Even small acts have an enormous day-to-day impact for Brookline at present and Brookline in the future. Solidarity with your Native and Indigenous community is another actionable example of Gadugi. A land acknowledgement alone is not enough, but instead is a starting point for actions that support Indigenous communities. The Native Governance Center explains that land acknowledgements should not be grim. They should function as living celebrations of Indigenous communities. Ask yourself, how am I leaving Indigenous people in a stronger, more empowered place because of this land acknowledgement? The Native Governance Center includes the following as concrete ways to take action beyond the land acknowledgement. So we can support Indigenous organizations by donating your time or your money, or support Indigenous-led grassroots change movements and campaigns. Encourage others to do so. We can commit to returning land. Local, state, and federal governments around the world are currently returning land to Indigenous peoples. Individuals are returning their land too. Research your options and ways on how to return land. But what does this look like here in Brookline and Boston? We can volunteer our time and otherwise support the work of organizations like the North American Indian Center of Boston and Native American Lifelines. We can also get involved in local, state, and national politics, like the Mass Indigenous Legislative Agenda. You can volunteer at Paguaso Land Rematriation, and they have an upcoming event with Surge Boston later this month. This project seeks to restore matriarchal and earth-centered stewardship. At Paguaso, they grow and share traditional medicines and food. The history of Native American peoples and cultures can often feel foreign. I know my generation and generations before me certainly were not taught these histories in school. Maybe that is a barrier to feeling like you can support your Indigenous communities here in Brookline, Boston, and beyond. The Brookline Indigenous Peoples Celebration Committee hosts a bi-monthly Indigenous Authors Book Club, and those books are always made available at the Brookline Booksmith. And you can see some of the titles over there and some that the Brookline Booksmith is selling today. These books inform us about these histories and also ground us with the knowledge that Native Americans in our tribal communities did not vanish. We are here, we are present, and we will continue into the future. When you leave today, think about what you can do for Brookline, not only today, but in the future. Today is a celebration. We are here. Our tribes are still sovereign. They are led by elected leaders and with established constitutions. Our languages and our traditions are being revitalized. I will be able to pass on to my own children, as my grandmother passed to me, the same lessons about what it means to be Cherokee. We are still here. Watto, thank you. And with that, I believe we also have food. So I think we can start that portion of the day. But again, continue to check out all of our vendors here, including the ones that were mentioned, for tangible ways to support our community. Thank you so much.